Well, welcome to Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. We are back and we're back on this piece about your life, your vision, right? So, a couple of things though before I get into what I want to share on tonight's episode. I want to first of all uh, say thank you to those of you who have been a part of the Pen to Paper tour this year. For the cities that I've been in, it has been amazing. And so I'm excited for those of you who had the opportunity to experience Pen to Paper on the road. Um, Now for the November conference, it has been moved. The experience has been moved to January 31st, February 1st of 2025. So definitely go to the website. You can still register. There's a promo code, promo 10, PROMO 10, and that will save you 10% off of your registration. So definitely go get registered. We're still going to have the event. It's just going to be a little later than it normally is. And so we're looking forward to seeing you, and you there. So if you had a conflict or you were contemplating on whether or not you were going to register for this year's event. We just moved it up, moved it back just a little bit, but go ahead and go to bridgetmoody.com/events and get registered. I want to dive back into this is a piece, and here's another opportunity. I have a coaching and mentoring group called the Vision Room. And so this is a piece that I've been sharing with the visionaries in that program. And I wanted to just share this concept with you, and hopefully I'll get through what I want to share today. And then we'll move on to another topic. Vision is so very important. Your vision, your life. That's a whole lot to unpack all by itself. When we talk about our visions, we talk about what we see, not just physically and tangibly, and the things that we can put our hands on, the things that we can embrace, the things that we can tangibly say, hey, this is actually a reality. I've done it, I've accomplished it, whatever the case may be. But it's what you can see internally, right? It's what you can see in your mind and in your heart and spirit. That is super, super, super important because if you can't see it, you will never see it, meaning you will never be able to envision yourself, which is the first part of the four phases of vision. I mentioned to you earlier, a couple of weeks ago, when I gave the intro to this particular topic, that there are four phases to vision. You have your overall vision, right? And so I've talked about that many, many, many times. But you have four phases of vision. And so it just doesn't, and the word says in Habakkuk 2 and 2 that the vision is for an appointed time. So that lets us know right there that when the revelation comes or when we see whatever we see or saw whatever we saw, that doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow morning, right? It's for an appointed time. Well, because it's for an appointed time, there are phases and there are levels to it unfolding and coming to manifestation. So we first have that first phase, which is envision. Envision is where we have the ability to see what we cannot see. That goes to Hebrews 11 and 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things that we do not see. So the envisioning is us taking the word of the revelation that God has given us and saying, hey, this is what God has shown me. I can see myself doing it. I can see us doing it. I can see that happening. I can see that coming to fruition. I can see that being built. I can see that being walked out. I can see that being taught. Whatever that is, you're able to see it. And because you're able to see it, right, from an intelligence perspective, from a revelatory perspective, you're able to see it tangibly. And when you are able to see it tangibly, that is when the motivation kicks in. And that's when you begin to embrace and take on and begin to demonstrate what that vision is. It's at that point that you begin to lay out what I call the documentation piece of it. So you have the articulation. That's where you are articulating to yourself because you're the person that you talk to more than anybody else. So it's when you articulate to yourself, this is what I've seen, this is what I know, this is what the revelation was to me and for me, right? Well, that's the articulation part. Then we have the documentation piece. That means we've got to get that on paper. We got to get that typed up, written down somewhere so that number one, we capture what has been revealed, right? We capture what has been revealed. Once we capture what has been revealed, then we have to demonstrate. There is articulation, then there's documentation, and then there's demonstration of the vision. All of this is a part of phase one, envision, because now you have to take the opportunity to create the blueprint. And so, in creating the blueprint for what you're trying to see come to manifestation, you have to have it documented. When homes are built, when buildings are built, there is a blueprint that is um, prepared and delivered or presented by an architect. Right? So you're the architect of your vision. You're the architect for your life and for your vision. And so if you don't have a blueprint for what it is that you need, what it is that you have seen, what it is that needs to be done, and how it needs to be done, and how it needs to be laid out, guess what? That's going to be a train wreck. So when you don't end up with something of reality that is tangible or a finished product, it's because you did not take the time. You skipped some steps and you didn't create a blueprint. So that envisioning piece is the blueprint. So when you close your eyes, and here's another thing. When we are creating our blueprint and when we're seeing those things relative to our vision, they often have to do with some experience that we've had along the way in life. In other words, when we close our eyes and we envision doing a thing or being in a place, we actually have been to that place before, or we've seen someone do what it is that we desire to do. We've seen ourselves in that position. You ever been to a concert and you could see yourself on stage singing if you're a singer, or if you're a speaker, you in a room at a conference and you heard somebody articulating something and you could see yourself doing that particular thing, or an author and you were on stage telling your story and sharing the steps you took to get to where all of that, there's an experience that is tied to the blueprint of what it is that's been revealed to you as a vision. So this piece is so very important because if you can't see a thing, you cannot put it on paper, create a blueprint, and be the architect of that coming to fruition. So envisioning is all about the fact that there's a blueprint that you've seen, there's a revelation that's been given, and then you have to have a plan, a strategy, and a structure in order to get to that end result. Now, that gives us what we need to get on our way to establishing what it is that we need to establish. Now, here again, some people are thinkers, planners, strategic people like myself. Others are just, we do it as we do it. And so what happens is we waste time, we waste money, we get off track. We do things backwards. We do things, last that we should have done first. We do things first we should have done last. All of these kinds of things. And so we're trying to figure out what is it that's causing me to not be able to get to this place of manifestation and see this thing come to reality. And it's because we're not taking the phases appropriately or taking the steps appropriately in the phases of vision. So in vision, that's your blueprint phase. That's your phase to say, hey, I got a plan because this is the blueprint that I've been given. This is a revelation I've been given. I got to have a plan. I got to have a strategy, and I got to know how I'm going to get from A to B. It's the stuff in the middle that makes a difference, and it's also the stuff in the middle that will trip you up, right? So that's phase one. Then we have phase two. That is the provision. These first two are probably the most important. The other two, which it looks like I'm going to end up talking about those another time, next week. But these first two, envision and then provision, oh my goodness, these are the most important because if we don't work in these parameters, nothing happens. I'm telling you, nothing happens. So when it comes to provision has to do with preparedness. Meaning we have to, once we have seen the vision and the vision has been given to us, we've created that blueprint, then we have to make sure that we prepare everything that needs to be prepared so that provision can come about as a result of the vision we've been given. Right. So let's say, for instance, a clothes designer has been given a vision for a line of um, styles or a line of designs, right? Whether that's dresses or suits or shoes or whatever the case may be. Well, once that vision has been given and they have, sketched those designs or those items, those dresses, those shoes, those suits, whatever they are, hats, whatever the case may be, then somebody has to create them. right? Somebody's got to sew the dress. There has to be a pattern created. There has to be the proper threads. There has to be the proper machines to sew these garments on. There has to be the proper products for shoes, the proper soles, the proper threads for the soles. You don't use the same threads for shoes that you use for clothing. Laces, buttons, Velcros, whatever the case may be, straps, buckles. All of these things have their own identity, and so all of these things have to be prepared in order for the garments to be prepared. If in fact that piece doesn't take place, if you don't prepare for the product to come to fruition or to be created and developed, and then it goes through a production process, and then it's yielded to be sold, provision never happens. And provision never happens because you don't have anything to sell, right? So whether that's a book, you can be I mean, I hear it all the time. People taking 1, 2, 3, 4 years to write a book. Granted, some people they think through the process, they take their own time, but it doesn't take that long to write a book, neither does it take that long to publish a book. Now, granted, there are different perspectives and there are different things based on what people are looking to do and how they want to do it. If a person's goal is to have a distributor, a marketing team, so forth and so on, that's a higher dollar published book. You're going to pay for those services. However, if it's a story that you want to get out, doesn't mean it still can't be picked up by a publisher down the road, a publishing company. But self-publishing is the best way to get your story out and to make sure that you have something that you have gotten out and you have allowed yourself to prepare for provision. So whether self-published, the difference in it is the marketing and the distribution and all the places, because not everybody who writes a book is an orator. Not everybody who writes a book is an extrovert. Not everyone who writes a book is a person who is in the public eye. So there are a whole lot of parameters and things that go along with that. So, but at the end of the day, can you write a book and self-publish a book within 90 days? Absolutely, you can. I've done hundreds. And I help people every day to do that kind of thing and launch other kinds of businesses based on their vision. Because if you're ready and you have a blueprint, it can be done. So these first two phases are important: envision and provision. If you don't prepare for it, what it is that you have been given to do, provision never comes. So here again, if it's a cake, if you never baked a cake, you can't sell a cake. So you don't know how many would sell. You don't know who would like it because you never prepared it and you didn't get the right ingredients. So all the things that need to happen, and you have to pay close attention to the instructions that you're given when you receive revelation about something. And if it was said to use, for instance, for cakes, if it was said to use pure butter and you use margarine, well, okay, there's going to be a consequence of using margarine or going cheap, right? And here again, it's a risk. Every time we do something, there's always a risk of something going awry. But at the end of the day, what can't be said is that you didn't try, right? So take the opportunity to ensure that you have reviewed your life. You've thought about, what's your life vision, what's your life goal. And here again, this is not in totality. This is from season to season. This is from decade to decade. This is from phase to phase. Because who you were at 25 is not who you are at 35. Who you are at 35 is not who you are at 45. And certainly you are at 45 is not who you are at 55. Trust me, I know. I'm above all those numbers. So at the end of the day, life has shifts and changes and things occur. And so, but at the core of who you are, that vision is still there. That light is still on, even if it's dim. And so sometimes you just got to screw it back in tight, get back connected, and make sure that you are aligning yourselves with your life and with your vision. Well, listen, I'm gonna stop right there this week, and we'll be back next week. We'll talk about the last two phases of vision and how it can be important to you. Now, listen, the pen to paper experience goes way beyond this. This is just scratching the surface, but the things that we dive into and we get into the practicality of the things that you are endeavoring to see come to manifestation and help you to hands-on walk through that process. And that's what pen to paper is about, to help you to have the reality and the fullness, the fruitfulness of purpose and vision. And I'm telling you, it's an experience like no other. So if you've not gotten registered, you want to go do that. And listen, if you want to join us in the vision room is open right now. You can go to bridgetmoody.com/mentoring and you can subscribe to be a part of the vision room. It's only $49 monthly subscription. You can cancel at any time. We'd love to have you. So go to the website right now and join us in the vision room. Listen, we'll see you next week back here, same time, same place, for the vision for Tuesday motivation and conversation. But I'm looking forward to seeing you also in the vision room. Until next time.